Welcome everyone to our follow-up panel discussion. 1 week after the 2023 Voice and Song Summit on the 1st of April, which to me was a huge success. It looked good, it felt good, it was fun, it went smoothly. We had double the number of people register almost this year versus last year. So I was really pleased with how it went, and I'm really grateful to all of you who participated. So we'll have a little structure in mind for today's session. We do like to talk, a lot of us voice people. Some of us come from the I never talked and now I talk, and some people come from the I talk too much and now I talk a little bit less. Listening is always the key, right? And I want to take the time today to get to hear more from each of the speakers, what they got from the summit. And we're going to do breakout rooms, and we will go into breakout rooms with the people who are joining the attendees. And then towards the end, we'll do a bit of a Q&A kind of discussion, more open to everybody. But in the first portion of today's session, I'd like to get all of our panel, all of our speakers, just maybe pulling apart some of the threads that we started to pull on during the summit and see where that's leading. So I'm excited to tell you that we already have Mark Cox in the room, Carolyn Baker, Lowry Olson, Roger Burnley, and Betty Fitzgerald is in the background as well. We will see her in a few minutes. So we're going to get started with a bit of chat between all of the speakers, and we will then do a breakout room, and we will go into the breakout rooms with you guys that are here as attendees. So thanks everyone. So let's have a little chat. I'd love to invite, I'm just going to spotlight the speakers and ask you guys to tell me a little bit about what you feel the outcome of the summit was for you guys. Rochelle?
There's so many things because everybody brought like a different unique perspective to using your voice. I think for me with my session, the power of storytelling is incredibly, powerful, and we can use our voice to share our stories, and being confident in sharing your story in a vulnerable way, or, with things that you've experienced. We've seen before where somebody does a video and it goes viral and it can impact millions of people. So, finding the tools that you can use to start using your voice more and sharing is, really what creates human impact. So there's so many different ways to do it, through story, through song, through intention and whatever it might be. But so it was great to see like all the different people sharing their different ways of using your voice and how it really can create human impact.
I love that, because I think when we say using our voice, or we're sharing our voice, really what it is we're sharing our story. So the idea of voice and story and explaining how we are and how we feel and what's going on for us and what's important to us and what we would like to share and how we want it to inspire others, or what we'd love to see in the future. They're all the stories, right? Their story doesn't just mean our past, it doesn't mean our present, but it also means what's the story of our projected futures? What is it we want to manifest? So I think that there's a beauty in that. And to me, singing and songwriting is about communication. And there is that first level of communication where we understand something within ourselves. We're like, oh, that's how I feel, right? So sometimes we're using our voice to find out what's going on for us. And then we're moving into this, maybe talking to someone else about something. The other person will come back with something to us that we're like, oh, so we find out our story, and by sharing our story. Mark, I'm sure. Yeah, go ahead, Rochelle, first.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, and usually if you're thinking about something or your intuition's like, I should talk on this, I can guarantee there's many, many other people that are feeling the same thing. So listen to your intuition as to what it's, really calling to you to speak on.
Yeah, beautiful. So Mark is coming from counseling and voice background, so I'm sure that this resonates as well for your work.
It does a lot. When I work with people, people's stories are of utmost importance. So when we're looking at, why are we having difficulty today? Oftentimes we need to dig back and we need to hear the story of what took place, what the freedom that you had and enjoyed as a child. Where did it go? What happened? Where was your voice cut off in the world? And so we do the job of unpacking that and bringing it back to fullness, right? So they can enjoy that full freedom of expression, which I think is really important, because one of the pieces that has been kind of danced around and touched on a little bit is this piece of safety. Because if someone is going to have a free voice, they have to find that place of safety in order to use it, right? So an excellent voice practitioner is always going to have this sense that I need to provide that sense of safety, that space of safety for the people that I'm working with. Because ultimately, as they learn how to use their voice, the end goal is for them to be able to create that space of safety for themselves, because their voice has been freed and they can create that safety for themselves.
Yeah. It's so important to give ourselves some self-acceptance and to understand that each of us, no matter where we are with our lives or where we are within our story, the downs, the ups, whatever it might be, to be kind to ourselves in that, because the self criticism, like I talk about this a lot when I'm teaching singing, because adults are so self-critical of themselves when they're learning new things. Rochelle, did you want to pipe in on that?
Yeah, you cut out for a second. So what was the last part you said?
Oh, sorry. I just was saying there that, that we need to have self-compassion as we feel into our stories and as we communicate that.
Yeah, definitely have, compassion and grace for ourselves. And, I think too, when, I was telling you when I did my presentation that a mentor told me to speak with when you talk, you're opening your mouth and your heart at the same time. And when you come from a space of that vulnerable space of sharing, you give other people permission when you do share to do the same thing and to open up their heart and mouth at the same time as well.
Beautiful. Carolyn, I'd love to bring you in on this.
Yeah, I've always found with teaching, especially in the music industry, because there is so much critique already. The first thing that I say to people when they come for singing lessons is, I've got 2 golden rules. One is that I want you to make mistakes. I want you to have fun, and I want you to know that I actually don't care about what it sounds like, but I want to make sure that it's healthy coming out. So when they know that I actually don't care about how it sounds, especially, you would think more for beginners, but I've found more for professionals. When they've come for singing lessons, they're scared instantly from the moment they walk in, even though they want to come to learn, like we all do. We come to sing lessons to learn and to enjoy our voice, but it's very vulnerable sharing your voice with somebody because of all that it holds. So my 2 golden rules are, I don't care what it sounds like. Let's have fun. Let's make mistakes. Let's do something called edifying analysis, which is something that I created in my business, which is talking about building up somebody in love and truth, and making sure they feel taken care of while we're talking about the strengths and growth points of their voice. And that's the analysis part. And then just teaching technique so that everybody can learn these techniques. So you can feel safe knowing this technique is separate from me and it works with every single person's voice. And then that's that safety of separating, this isn't about my voice and what my voice can't do. This is a technique that works for everybody. Let's find a way that it absolutely works for you, and so that you feel safe and you move forward from there. So, and the second rule is, follow me, I'll do it first while you watch, and then we'll do the technique together, and then I'll watch you do the technique, and then you do the technique at home. So there's that safety there of let's make sure it's vocally healthy, and then you can go and you can do it to the point where eventually you're not going to need me anymore, and that's always my goal. So
Nice.
yeah, because you want people to learn and move on. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean
but
I
there's
don't want
also a
to
lovely
say that,
structure.
people
There's
need
a
to love
nice structure to how you explain what you do as well there, Carolyn, and that can be a way to make people feel safe, to kind of be like, oh,
Yes.
this is the process and this is how we do it. I'd like to invite Betty to pipe in, because I know she works with larger groups and a lot of choir stuff. How do you pull this concept into a choral situation?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Hi.
now.
I guess well, doing the work we say online, it still feels like one-to-one, what I'm doing when I have an online choir, which is that's only a new thing. I'm just trying it, at the minute. I've been doing it 6 months. I did it during COVID. And that's a bit like what Carolyn is saying there, where people are just exposed, they're sending me a recording and I'm listening to their voices and they're vulnerable. And actually, looking back on it, my own choir who sent me recordings individually were suddenly in a new space to what they were. The choral space is totally different to to this business of sending me a recording, where I listened to every single one of them. And I was so proud of each of them, because they actually I felt they were vulnerable, because all of a sudden I was really hearing them, whereas before in the actual group setting, they sort of get away with a bit more because they're part of the collective altos or whatever. So collectively, I guess, I suppose it's just about, when you're in a choral situation, it's, them blending, but there's great support there around, and they love the feeling of the sound bowl, I guess. So I kind of say to them, look, just feel it as one, when you're singing this line, whatever the line is.
Yeah.
And then I get them to listen to the line against the other line, and again, they feel very safe in that space.
That's
and
beautiful.
people that would never have tried singing. And it's just to hear how they support each other is how I would, make them aware of the different lines by, bringing one line in and the other line, or whatever. You were over here, you were there. And that was one of the, that little reflection that I had at the end of my talk was, about this alto, saying that there were the beams of light amongst the tenors were the pillars or whatever. The basses were something else down here in the sopranos. And it was just all this one safe space. And
the safety in numbers feeling there.
Totally.
Let me bring Lowry in on the idea of, as a songwriter, that vulnerability that we bring as well.
Well, I think that when you're writing songs, then it adds another layer of vulnerability, because then you're putting things into words, you're talking about stuff, and how well you do that. There's kind of a combination of maybe saying things that are vulnerable, and then exposing yourself on a deeper level, because it's pretty safe to sing other people's songs. Singing your own songs is trickier. I really loved, I'm trying to remember which one of the presenters it was. It's a woman, she's not here today, but she was the one that was doing the just these expressive, she was doing the singing for healing thing, and it was
Vanessa.
And just Vanessa, and she's just making those kinds of sounds and not judging them and stuff. And I have a friend who won't sing now. She was a pretty good singer, but her voice is cracking, and she won't sing anymore because she's so afraid of it cracking. And so she stopped. She stopped doing that. And it's kind of like, well, maybe you will work through that if you allow yourself to do it. But the fear is just, the piece that you guys are talking about around safety, I think is, it's so crucial for us.
Yeah.
But singing is, it's when we embody, like it's I mean, if to speak is to use your mouth and your heart, well, what's singing? I mean, that's just to like pour your heart, right? To really, because then there's all this, it's not just there's kind of, an inflection in when we speak, there's a natural kind of melody that's kind of in there. But when you sing it, then it's, there's this complete, just a complete outpouring of emotion and expression and who you are. So I think that, embodying, that's what I'm always trying to do with, with the song branding thing, with people trying to, simplify it. Melodies are really a delivery service. They're a delivery tool for an emotion, ba 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 bum, right? There's a whole, ba da da ba da, that McDonald's thing, all those things, they just create, melodies just can create emotion.
Yeah.
And so when we let people see that stuff, we're taking it to another level.
It's very deep.
Yeah. And then you judge the quality of your voice, and it's too thin, or it's going to crack, or I'm out of tune, or, all that stuff. It's a shame to silence ourselves, and,
Love that. Love to bring Ziza in. We have a couple more of the speakers in the room. So I'm just kind of trying to juggle a little bit between you guys. Ziza, would you like to pipe in on this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because since we're talking about vulnerability, this is something that I always share with people that work with me. I always tell them that vulnerability actually empowers other people. Even if it's not easy for you to share that thing, when someone sees you show up in your vulnerable self and even say, hey, right now I feel so scared for saying this, you will help them show as themselves more. They're going to think, wow, if she was able to do that, even if right now she doesn't feel comfortable, it means I can do it too. So by being open and honest and raw, how fragile is the little rosebud, but when you're open like that, you are able to transform into the open flower when you accept that you're just a little bud that's very fragile and you're open to share that. And since we were talking about mistakes as well, because that's a vulnerability, I just want to second what Carolyn said. And I always tell my clients, whether that's for singing lessons or for speaking lessons, these first few stages, when you are learning the basics, embrace those, because these are the most beautiful years of your life. This part where you make all of the mistakes in the world, it's not going to feel good, but it's so beautiful because you can see yourself how you transform, and you will learn from all of these mistakes. We can't learn as much from the achievements as we learn from the mistakes. So I know it's not comfortable, but it's so beautiful. So just wait until you become that beautiful rose. Once you embrace that vulnerability, I know it's not easy to do that, but once we accept that it's the only way to grow, it becomes much easier to say, hey, this is who I am. And I might feel fragile, but it's fine because I'm strong as well. Roses have thorns as well. So it's just who we are as human beings, I think.
I do absolutely. That's so powerful that we learn through the failures and not even half as much from our successes. I before I did the summit this year, my assistant said, what were the missed opportunities from last year? And of course a dagger went into my heart and I went, oh my God, I missed opportunities last year. But it was such a great question, because when I was willing to ask myself what I didn't do as well as I could have, I was able to do so many things slightly differently this year that really added. The emails were better. Did a lot more structure. So yeah, we need to be, if we can be kind to ourselves in those moments, then we can take that feedback better. Let me bring Zan in, and I see Roger's in the background as well. So I'm going to invite Roger after Zan.
Do you mind if I take a step back out and talk about the day on the whole, kind of where we
Yes.
started?
I'd love that.
I really, in my own personal experience, I feel like so much of what we have in our life and that surrounds us is what we manifest. And I see this very truly in this day in particular, because I come from a very traditional, structured, formal way of approaching the voice. You must sound exactly like this, or the barrier for what you should sound like is you have to fit between this tiny little hole. And 3 years ago, when I really started to, I personally, it started much earlier, but professionally, when my journey started 3 years ago, working and helping other people find the value in their own unique voice, whatever that sounds like, applying the conviction of your storytelling getting comfortable with what your sound is, because we all deserve to have confidence in this intrinsic part of the human experience. That's sort of the last week's summit was just such a beautiful day that was like a turning of the chapter of, wow, there's this whole community of people that are trying to help everyone in the world find not only their own unique vehicle for how they access their confidence, but so many people that are bringing the voice back and the tradition of singing back to the place where it should be, which is, how do we tell stories? How do we find our own confidence? How do we tell our stories out in the world? And I think that that's just a really beautiful thing. It's something that I haven't experienced. I experience on a one-to-one basis all the time, but not in this big group of all of these incredible people that are albeit, sometimes focused on songwriting, sometimes focused on professional singing, sometimes focused on amateur singing, whatever it is, but that there are all these people that are working within this space and interested in helping people find that confidence in their own unique voice. And that it's just a really beautiful thing. I think it's incredible that we have a community here of people that are professing that message out into the world, because it makes me feel hopeful for the future of the voice and the direction that music making is headed in.
Thank you so much. And, it's such an honor to have you as part of that. And especially bringing the technology side of it and bringing the app that you're going to have to help people anywhere at any level get their singing started. So Roger, let me bring you in. So go ahead. What's on your mind? What's in your heart?
This is so perfect. Everyone needs to understand that we became coaches because we've gone through all this stuff. We've had all the problems, we've had the insecurities, we've figured all of that, and we still experience it. That's just how we all develop as humans, and that's what we're doing. And so that vulnerability part is probably the one that we all recognize the most, and what we work with. And as Laura was talking about, the person was finding the problem where their voice was breaking all the time. They didn't want to sing anymore. They can fix that. I know exactly what that is, because I had a client, same thing. He had been off, not performing for a long time. He's in his 60s. He goes back and he's starting doing shows, and he had this, and he was just freaked out. He just was afraid of doing anything. And so I said, no, we just got to fix it. You just got out of whack a little bit. And so then he went back, and then he took what I gave him and just stayed with it and turned into this completely different person. And I went to his last show and I go, oh no, you've got to start coaching other people now, because you figured this out. You see, we are all doing that. And so but then the other thing, let me talk about the event a little bit, because I feel so guilty. That's my issue. I have guilt a lot, because I promised you, because it was so wonderful. And I just didn't get enough people there, because I was just caught in so many other stuff. I do this a lot, and I didn't have help. I didn't have a VA and all that. Now I do. So next year I'll have people doing so much more. But it was just so wonderful, because I was there most of the day, listening to all the different points of views and everything that was brought. And it does need to be bigger, and more people need to understand it. So I was really pleased with the production of it this time, and I know it'll be even better next year. So
Thank you so much, Roger. And yeah, but just remember that I did collect all those recordings, and they are available still. So it's $44. And if you know people that you think would have wanted to be there, please let them know about that. So let's just, we have about 5 more minutes. We have all of our speakers that are here right now. Carolyn's there in the background as well. And anybody want to, just pipe in, here's now where we have to just go, hey, I have something to say here. Let's see who's brave. Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
I think it's really good. I love the fact that we've got so many different perspectives on the voice. Roger, I love that you sat there and just hearing all of the different lines. And I don't know, for a while, I actually felt like, I'm doing something a little bit different with the voice, and maybe I'm the oddball out. Like maybe there's no one else in the world like this. Maybe I'm actually too weird for humanity or something, so I'm crossing wellness and fine arts and all of these things. But to meet a community where it's like there's tons of people doing the same kind of stuff, it's just like, that's incredible. That's incredible. And it makes me go, maybe I'm still weird. Maybe it's okay.
It is good. It's good to be weird. It's good to be okay with that. We are all here for a reason. When I started to own my passion for singing and own my passion for communicating through the voice, everything started to make sense, and I had promoted other businesses before, and I never wanted to promote them. But when I realized that people needed to really understand the power of their voice and the value, and I say everybody's voice is a treasure, because sometimes when we start expressing the thing that's in us. So it's about that embodiment thing Larry is talking about this emotion and this thing it comes sometimes from the thing that's the problem. So the problem for me was nobody really wanted to listen to me when I was a kid. And my cousin her dad used to tell her, oh, you're in a family gathering, he'd say, Elaine's going to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and Elaine would be put up in front of everyone to sing this song, and I would be just going, I wish that was me. I wish my dad thought enough of me to put me forward for something. So this idea of not being seen and not feeling heard created this, I had this gap where I felt like, why am I not being seen and heard? And why does nobody care whether I sing or not? Why does nobody care if I do what I'd like to do with my life? Why does everyone tell me what I should be doing, that I should be going to university, that I shouldn't be doing acting college that I wanted to do? All the things that I wanted to do, people didn't get it in my family. And I realized over time that I just had to trust myself and understand that I can find people who would believe in me. I'd find a singing teacher. And only having one or two people who believe in you is enough to get started. And sometimes our near and dear are the least likely to understand it. But they are all on different wavelengths. And that can be very hard as a young person, because if your parents don't see what you enjoy and see what you're good at, if they're too distracted, they're too stressed, they can't do that. So I think it's really important that we all encourage others when they try to put themselves forward, whether those are friends or family or nieces or nephews, and just let people know that they do count and that their voices are important. So we're going to go into breakout rooms now. So we'll get to chat as a bigger group in little ways, and then we'll come back for a bit of Q&A. Anybody have anything, any of the speakers like to say anything before we go into breakout rooms? Someone say something for a few minutes so that I have a time to put my breakout room stuff.
I have something to say, Aideen.
Great.
As someone who had a dad who put them on stage, let me tell you, it was incredibly embarrassing. And there were many times where I was like, Dad, don't call on me. Or my dad would stand up at Christmas time or Easter, Greek Easter, and he would stand up and I'd be like, this is the moment. Please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And he'd make me sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So as somebody who felt the other side of it, sometimes it can be a blessing, sometimes it can be a curse.
Isn't that so true?
Yeah.
We always get the thing that we wish we could have. Roger?
Yeah.
I'll throw in one other thing. You said sometimes it's one person who can make a difference,
Yeah.
And when I was 12 years old, there was a coach, choral director, who I thought as a 12-year-old kid told me something was wrong with my voice. And so I had this idea, and I don't know if he said that, but that's what I believe. And then I get to high school, and then he's my choir director, and he's telling me all these, you're great, you're wonderful. Couldn't believe it. I had to work through so much of that earlier belief that I thought, or maybe I made it up. But he became that one person who pushed me all the way through. Otherwise, I would have never gotten there. So yeah, one person can make a difference.
Okay, well, we're going to start our rooms. I'm opening all the rooms, and what I did was you can choose your room. So here's I don't know how this works. So if you don't find a room, let me know. I'm going to open all the rooms, and you just pick 1, 2, or 3. Okay, three breakout rooms for 10 minutes. Okay, and we'll see you back in 10. Is it showing anybody how that they can choose a room or not?
Yeah,
You
I
have to
can see
click
it.
on the left.
It's on the left.
Click on the left right above the view, switch to gallery view button.
Okay.
And you can, it says join breakout room.
Okay,
So click that, and then you can click 1, 2, or 3.
great. If everybody's figuring it out, I'll wait until the end. Anybody who's left, I'm going to assign to a room. Okay, and I might move one of, Mark, could you choose one? Oh, yeah, it's good. Okay, who's left? Karina and Joy. I'm going to find you a breakout room. I'm going to put you into room 2. Actually, it looks like one of you go in room 2. I'll do that for you if you can't figure it out. Assign to room 2, and Joy, I'm going to assign you to, let me see, Betty, Zan. Who would you like to chat with? Anyone in particular? Karina, were you able to pick your room? Just pick joint. There you go. Is there anyone
Maybe
particular?
Ziza.
Ziza, great. I'll put you into room 1 then. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Recording. So open conversation now. Anybody want to share what happened in the breakout room? Anything fun happen in there? Anything you'd like to mention to the whole group? Lisa?
I was just sharing that I told you this, but I just got confirmation today that my friend who's a music teacher and I are going to be doing a Joni Mitchell sing-along workshop at Wheatland Traditional Arts Weekend. Memorial Weekend, which is the smaller fest. They get hundreds of people, not like the big fest in September that's 15,000 people. So that's my next goal, is to get this, now that they'll hear us, into the big festival in September.
Well, congratulations, because I feel
And
like
someday on the main stage.
absolutely, why
Someday.
not? We have to aim for something, and I know each of us has a part to play, and you've got a big part to play too, Lisa, and keep working at it. And who knows what's going to happen next? Look at everything that happens. It's just we have
I
no
think
idea.
it was maybe 2 years ago. I said in 5 years we'll be doing the Joni tribute at Wheatland, and maybe in 5 years the main stage, but at least a side stage. And they have a new, since last year, songwriter stage that they built, and it's in the woods, and it's called the Schaefer stage. So they have a series of songwriter type music performers throughout the day. So that was
amazing.
really, really exciting. And I did talk to someone that was running one of the workshops about wanting to do a Joni Mitchell tribute there. And she said she has done Joni Mitchell tributes in Indiana. And so I'm hoping I can kind of bring her into it as well.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations. I'd like to bring Anya in. Anya, unfortunately, her sound wasn't working earlier. So Anya, tell us how you got along for the summit. Were you there for the day last week?
I was there for a lot of it, in and out, and I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the different speakers, the different perspectives on voice and singing, and especially I have my own business, so I was especially interested in how voice can work within a business, even with the brand, and how it can have its own kind of tone on the business, which is something that I now want to pursue for the business. And I especially loved Barbara, one of the final speakers, working on the air and the metal and the water, and I just really enjoyed her kind of light-hearted approach, and it was something I practiced with my team on Thursday actually at work. So yeah, really enjoyed the day. So well done. Absolute credit to you and to all the people involved.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm delighted. God, that you took something that you learned at the summit straight into your workplace is amazing. So congratulations. You're a brave woman, and I'm really proud of everything you've achieved. Anya's been a student of mine for a while, and she's done so much. She's thrown herself into developing her voice as a singer, and I'm delighted for you. Anybody else like to pipe in that was a participant at the summit? Harriet, would you like to tell us what you got from the summit?
I got really some encouragement to try some new things. And in the midst of a lot of other activities, as I'm trying to say, okay, how am I going to follow up with those gift packages? And I would say that I actually last October, November did take Barbara's workshop on full voice, and I've read her book, and it's really quite interesting. It does prompt me, as I was hearing some of you talk, about how to moderate a voice that's actually very loud and metallic in a place where it's better not to be loud and metallic. So perhaps that's something to talk to Barbara about. But
for me, if I want something to flow a little better, I'll ask people to use humming to feel that there's a breath connection between the words. So when we say something in a metallic way, there's usually kind of it's a bit more plosive, it's a little sharper. But when we try to join the words up and there's less emphasis on each word, is more an emphasis on phrasing. So that would be my little suggestion, if to start you off. And of course, Barbara would be the best person to speak to a little more about that. And we are here for you. That's why our speakers, we all did the summit, because we want to connect with people who are interested in what we do, and we want to be able to be of service. So if you have any trouble accessing the VIP gifts or in anything like that, please just email me or let me know, and I can get the speaker that you want to connect with you directly. We will do our absolute best to be there for you, because really that's what we're hoping, is that we'll get to connect with new clients as well through the summit, and you'll get inspiration to take new ways forward in your own life. And we'd love for this to have a little bit of momentum. And I'm thinking maybe we'll do another one of these kind of panel group discussion things in about a month's time again, for whoever can pop in and say hi, because I'd love to keep a little bit of a connection with the people from the summit too.
I'd like that. And I actually, I'm not a singer. I was one of those people that didn't sing, and I'm 81 years old and I don't plan to do any singing, but I know how this can be used in hospice situations, in many, many situations. I actually had a question for Lowry though, when he's talking about the melodies. And one thing I've discovered is that when I use solfege, I can actually kind of get my brain a little bit more regulated. Or so when you do your melodies, or whether you talk about it as degrees on the scale, is there any one? Can you say anything about that? Their ba 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 certainly has one aspect. Da 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 has a different aspect. What could you say about that?
Well, I think without getting into kind of too technical as far as the size of the interval, but some things just convey a feeling, right? A melody. So for instance, somewhere over wouldn't work very well for somewhere over the rainbow. It'd feel like a pretty small rainbow, but that's somewhere. That leap, it creates a feeling of space and expansiveness, right? But like the melody for All You Need Is Love, which I think is probably one of the most brilliant decisions ever. All you need is love on one note means that everybody in the world can sing that, whether they think they can sing or not. They can all sing it on one note. So to me, when I'm thinking about melodies, I just wrote one, maybe I used it the other day, for a woman who she's a Medicare broker. She sells Medicare insurance, and the melody that we wrote for that was "Make Medicare Simple." Da ba da da bum ba. Right, and I could have gone "Make Medicare Simple" or done all that, but that to me there was a sense of taking something and shining a light. Like melodies, by raising pitch, you can add a spotlight on a word. So I really think a lot about the feeling more than I think about, the degree on the scale or technical stuff. And to me, it's very much an emotional response to, Harriet Dart is coming, Harriet's coming, stand back, whatever, right? That kind of stuff. So, it's like, how does it feel? And a lot of times it's just an extension of how you say it naturally, the natural inflections.
I love that, Larry, and absolutely, and lovely to hear your voice, Harriet, as well, with your bum 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 bum. Let's everybody try that. Bum 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 bum. It's just so much fun. And Carolyn was piping in the chat. Carolyn, would you like to make your comment?
Oh, I just thought Harriet's singing was beautiful and completely in key. So you actually stayed in the key you started in, which says to me that you are a singer. I do believe absolutely everybody can sing. And that was something that I said at the summit
Yes.
when I talked, is that everybody, I truly believe, can sing and sing really well. It's just finding your range and then singing within your range. And you can always expand your vocal range. But we all need to start where we feel comfortable, where we feel safe, and then we can build on that safety expanding. And so I loved your singing then. So I just put it in the chat to say so.
But and I would actually expand on what Ziza said earlier, is that so I was in a program for about 10 months, which prompted my taking Barbara's course. And it has given me the courage to do that, burst into that song. And what's surprised me is how much positive impact it has on the listening around them. It's like when I'm willing to be vulnerable, it's like engages other people. And it does take courage, but the more you do it, the easier it is. And not to worry about the intonation, those choir directors that you got to be on pitch and breath. And there's definitely a place for that. But
Yeah.
Music as self-expression and music as performance are different. And
exactly, using your voice on a day-to-day basis, being willing to just hum a bit of a melody in a conversation, is really, really liberating, and it's enriching, because it's our voices have so much more to offer than just that speaking range. I talk about the gears of the voice: first gear, second gear, third gear, and we kind of stay in first gear, but like, it's like we want to do more, we want to get into fifth gear and sixth gear. We want to go and have fun. Ziza, would you like to come back to that? Oh, sorry, who's speaking? Roger, go ahead, Roger.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on Carolyn actually too, about anyone can sing. And that was something that was troubling for me many years ago. I said, nah, is that true? And the year was 1990, I believe. And this guy calls me up and he wants to come in for voice lessons. He's had one goal. See, it's all about motivation, what you want to do. He said, I want to be able to sing My Girl so I can go to a karaoke bar and sing it for my girlfriend. I said, sure, no problem. Everyone knows this song. You can do that. He comes in for his lesson and we started playing the exercises. He couldn't hear a single note. It was just, I said, oh, this is, and I kept going over and over. And then I said, well, maybe he can know it from the song, because a lot of times people will be able to sing a song a little bit and maybe not hear the exercises. I've had that. And so, nope, I would play a karaoke song of this. He didn't know where the music came in, where nothing. And I go, what am I going to do? But he says, I'm going to do this. He was determined. He would come every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and I was terrified, because I thought, what am I going to do? But he wasn't going to leave. And so I would sit there and keep going over a piano, one note here, this note there. And then he started getting it. It took months, but he got to the place where he could sing that song. He didn't have the greatest tone, but he was on pitch. He knew the timing, and he went and he did the song, and I never saw him again.
That's amazing, Roger, because it is, if it I love the psychology of the music, you know,
Right.
and one of the things that struck me was, you know, how we actually hear different things at different points of our music, kind of our lives. So babies don't actually hear small intervals, and that one of the reasons why da 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 is so scary is because it's such a close melody that doesn't harmonize, and it feels like a little bit off. Like, what is it, the duh or is it the dum? You know, it's neither note feels like it's safe, right? It's like we're off kilter here. And so there's amazing you know, research done on, you know, what a child can hear, what feels comfortable in our bodies, you know, what we like. So that twinkle twinkle is a great example of da 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 da. It's actually quite much easier for a kid to hear that first interval because it is a leap and they're so different. So the contrast helps the person to understand what it is. And then as you're coming down, they can find those little notes as you come down. And I've found actually with people who, if this is happening to any of my voice coaches in the room, I found the interval of a fourth is really, really useful. As I'm sure this probably comes down to chamber music and, you know, Gregorian chanting, everything. This interval of a fourth has some real deep resonance within our bodies. So there's so much in all of that. And if we miss a phase of our musical education, if we do not listen to music as a kid, if no one interacts with us around sound and voice as a child, it's almost like you have to go back to there. So I would say, right, your level of music or singing is 3-year-old. So we're going to start with nursery rhymes. And that's really what you have to do and to build it back up. But it is possible for most people. I mean, I'll be honest, I had one client that found vocally that she was very, very, very difficult to change pitch. And she didn't have she didn't want to continue. But it's very rare. And I think that most of us have a lot more to offer. And even if we don't ever hold pitch well, our voices still have value. Who cares? You know, I've had people enjoy singing along to a song and never hit hardly any note correctly, and they love it. And, you know, if you've got children, and children don't always hold pitch well, like I was staying with a friend, and his kid is like 6 years old and she only sings half of the song correctly. But we can't say that to her, oh, you're not singing it right. She has to just keep doing it. And I was encouraging her to join in with singing or music she hears on the TV and see, can she do it, and match a little melody here and match a little melody there. And so please don't discourage someone when they're bad. That's basically all I'll say, because they can improve with encouragement. So Ziza, did you want to pipe in on that one?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm going to mention something that we've discussed in the breakout rooms with Mark. And I can bet everyone has noticed this, especially the voice coaches, but it's probably noticeable by someone else. When we do voice training, a lot of the things and fears and doubts that we have lying over there in our mind, but we're not aware of, they start to come up. And I see this, especially when we want to proceed and go in the higher pitches, and students start to get scared. The voice changes, it cracks. They can't sing on pitch anymore, or the voice goes in the back of the mouth. And you can literally see on their face that there's something going on. And I would tell them, now you're thinking this and this and this. How do you know? Well, I know because it reflects in the voice. And it's just because of the mental block. They think, no, I can do it before they make the sound. And because of that, I know I had a student, she would purposefully sing off pitch so she wouldn't have to sing that thing anymore. And then I would start to ask questions. And this is where the part where you really have to go into coaching a little bit to understand, why is this scaring you? What's going on? And then you start to find out, well, someone told me I can't sing that high. Someone told me my voice doesn't fit there. And that's when it's really important to tell the person to really be compassionate with them and tell them you're allowed to make a mistake. It's so much more important to try and get it wrong instead of not trying at all. How do you know? Unless you try. So this is why I really believe this summit has been so useful, because it opens up the perspective. It's a new way of getting to know yourself. Everything that happens inside of us is reflected in the voice, yet we're not aware of it. We underestimate the power of this. We can tell when someone's nervous by the way they speak, by the way their voice sounds, by the pitch that they speak with, but we just forget about it. We only remember how important it is when we lose our voice, when we're sick. So I think this is what this summit did. It brought a lot of awareness around the idea of, hey, the voice is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. So it's time to give it some attention, some that well-deserved attention.
Well, you just summarized everything that I think was important about the summit in that, Ziza, and I'm really grateful to have you echo what I believe so deeply. And one of the reasons why my interest in the psychology of the singing and everything is because it is so liberating to accept yourself, to accept the voice you have, to the point of also not just accepting it, but being tentatively courageous to take those steps outside of our comfort zone and to do what we want to do next, because we never do what we want to do next perfectly. And it's really important to be kind to ourselves along that journey. So we are going to be finishing up in a few minutes. Mark, would you like to say anything before we finish up in a few minutes?
Sure, Aideen. I think that what Zero is talking about with the vulnerability and how things are just unlocked when they're unlocked vocally, and how oftentimes we get to that place. I know that oftentimes when I thought of your typical voice person out there, a lot of it just centers around like, oh, there's this set of techniques and this is the right way. And everyone else is really wrong. And if you come from another teacher or another instructor, I'm going to have to unteach all of the wrong stuff they taught you so that you can get in the right lane of all these right techniques. And I really hated that when I first started. And I think that it's so wonderful to be, and I've bent towards not even talking about techniques. So nobody hate me too much. But going to the place of saying, what are you feeling when you're going for that high note? What emotion is coming up for you? Where is your mind running to right at the moment, right before you sing that note? What are you thinking? Are you thinking about who's listening? Are you wondering who else is in the room? Are you wondering about the quality of singers that you might be in front of right now? Somehow that might give them more ammunition to judge you, right? What are you thinking? And can we dismantle that? And can we help you understand that like this space is for the mistakes? It's not just that mistakes are allowed. The space of rehearsal and learning is for the mistakes. If it's not for the mistakes, then this is performance. It's not learning. It has to be for the mistakes.
I love
and the
that.
students that really grab that, boy, they go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I mean, I often say singing is good guessing, because we don't know what's going to come out of our voices until we hear it. And some of the research shows that the auditory part of our brain gets decreased while your singing part of your brain is working. So it's not as accurate. It's not enough to just be listening. It's like we've got to feel it and all that. So Carolyn, would you like to say anything before we start winding up in a few minutes?
I just wanted to say that I absolutely loved this, and I loved the summit. I loved that everyone had a different part of the story to say. The voice field in the last 5 years is coming to the forefront now, and they're realizing that it's a big mental health protector, which is great, something that we knew, but now they've got the science behind it. And so the fact that people have come to the summit and have come here today, you know, it all just shows that the voice really does matter, and our voices matter, whether we feel like it's a small voice now or whether it's a large voice wanting to come out and share it with the world right now. You know, we're all in a different space, and we're allowed to be on that journey. And so just wanted to say it was great, Aideen, and I really appreciate this space.
You're so welcome. Betty?
Yes, just as a speaker, you know, the whole idea of speaking, for me, you know, as a choral conductor, I'm so used to, you know, for years I was there with my back to the audience, and the music was my safety net, my safety, you know, hang on to the music, and I was getting the sound out through the choir, you know, the choir was singing for me, they were singing through me, whatever, through the music. But then for me to turn around and speak to the audience, it's only in the last couple of years that I've started really got my own voice. I'm confident to stand up now in front of an audience of 900 people and speak. But I know that but I know, because I know that this, we'll say, desire to speak has come through the music, all the music I've been doing. It's the next stage. It's like, who said it there, Aziza, you know, that to where whatever part of the journey you're on, that your voice and your music will take you there. And I just feel that has really taken me to the next place I want to be, which is turning around instead of having my back to the audience, turn around to them and go, yoo-hoo, I'm here, and this is me, and let's do this, let's do that, you know. So that just feels so wonderful. And it's because I have just grown with it and allowed myself to just free myself up and be, you know, the next person I want to be, reinvent myself again. I believe
we're all on a journey, and I think that's the thing to remember. And I know Roger will have something to say on that as we
It was so perfect, just the way this all happened. Everything that each of you said, and just in perfect order as well, was about, oh yeah, we're all doing the same thing. We're becoming our authentic selves by using music and all of these different skills to just own who we are. That's all it is. And because that's when we're living our best lives, that's when we're the happiest. And we just use different tools to do that. And everybody's explaining it in unique ways, which I love so much, which again, was just the brilliance of this summit. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to know you and know that journey. And well, the great things are ahead. Roger's going to have a book coming out called Your Last, no, hang on, you had it on your screen.
Well, yeah, there was the other one. It's called Your Life Operating Instructions. That's going to be the book. Yeah.
Well, we look out for that. Zan?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you, Aideen, for creating the space. I would just obviously reflect everything that everyone else has said. I absolutely agree. I'm excited about the future of The Voice and this community that we're building, that we're all building in our own communities, but as a wider global community to allow people to, build confidence in their own unique voice. But Aideen, it's been such a special 2 weeks. So thank you so much for putting this day together, bringing all these people together, both the participants as well as the speakers. And it's just, we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you so much for providing such a warm, welcoming community for people to talk about The Voice in such a healthy, empowering way.
Well, I'm just so grateful to you for being here. And it's easy, even as a voice coach, sometimes I will meet someone like Zan and I'll be like, wow, look what Zan has done, and the way that you've used your passion for voice and took it into technology. I get a little intimidated. I get intimidated by Ziza. I just think she's got this amazing skill with marketing and she's just doing so much. And we, each of us, have something very special to offer, and we're all on a journey, and no one is higher or lower. I'm no higher or lower than any of you who are listening that attended the summit. Any of you who have never used your voice is just as valuable as mine, even if no one has ever heard it. It's just as valuable as each of ours, even if you've never used it up until now. Please know that. Who hasn't said their? Larry, you're up.
Well, I love that, there's so many different perspectives from everybody on this as being so much more about so much more than just singing. It's not, it's not just about music. But I think for me, when we talk about vulnerability and fear and all that kind of stuff, like these are all kind of thinking states, right? Worry, anxiety, all of those kinds of things are all kind of cerebral, and they're head up kind of things. And the thing about singing is that it just instantly takes you into your body, and your body is, it's the blue zone. It's the place where you get your sense of perspective back, you become whole again, and really it's about presence, and which version of yourself is going to show up, and which version of yourself do you want to, about being fully yourself. And I think that singing is really an opportunity for us, a tool that we can use to really quickly transform ourselves from these small versions of ourselves into being really much more whole.
Yeah, I love that. And Ziza, Claude is in the room now, so I'm going to let you go last. Ziza.
Oh, me, I'm just going to share what I shared in the chat box. Now I'll get the post-event melancholy. I'm going to be so sad.
Well, I'm going to try and do another one of these in about a month's time and invite speakers and attendees and everyone, just make a space for this, right, to happen again. And don't forget, if you had the VIP, if you've taken up the VIP option, we actually do want to give you those gifts. So please ask for them. If you have any trouble getting into the PDF or links and any of those things, I'm here for that. Okay, just email me back and I will find a way to get you to connect with the speaker that you want to connect with. And Claude, you managed to get here for the end of our session today.
Yeah, I got confused on the times. I'm very sorry to be late, and I'm delighted to be here. Do you want me to just share my feeling on the whole experience?
Yeah, so spirit, the summit, or what you want to leave people with.
Okay, so I really feel I feel you did an amazing job, Aideen, and I commend you on that, and everybody who participated. It was so enriching and heartening to hear so many different perspectives that we can work on the voice from so many angles. And in my own experience, I suppose once you say something, you kind of commit to that, right? And I think that the voice is a great tool for self-growth and self-understanding, even just speaking, because sometimes when you're speaking, you realize I'm nervous or I'm afraid or I can't find my voice or whatever. It gives you a real-time assessment of how you are, how you're feeling about yourself. And you can feel that. So it's this great launch pad for, understanding, for self-understanding, self-growth. And it's amazing to have so many, experts or, just people who've got such vast experience of working with the voice from different angles. And, so there's so much to be curious about or to be inspired about. But ultimately, our voice is like a temperature check in real time of how am I actually feeling? And, when we utilize it and we bring words out and we bring them into reality, we sometimes there'll be hesitancy or there'll be fear. Different emotions will come up in your body. And so the combination of the expression and the feeling will guide you. And then, I was reminded of this fact earlier on today. If you want to get lemon juice out of a lemon, it has to be squeezed, right? You have to squeeze it, right? And if we want to bring the best out of ourselves, we have to squeeze ourselves. And so sometimes through, speaking your truth or speaking on a stage or singing a song or whatever mechanism you're using, it squeezes us, yeah, but it elevates us. So it kind of, I think that the voice is an amazing tool because it drives you, but it's also a monitoring tool. It's an assessment. It has a lot in it that can bring you to the actual next stage within your healing process, even if nobody is listening, or even nobody's in the room. Once you actually express, like obviously it's a different type of a tool when you have an audience like what we have here today or in a room, but even without that, because by you actually expressing yourself, you can actually know, yeah, this is real, or there's more to go, or you have a huge insight into yourself. And so it's just been amazing to be part of the whole experience. And I commend you, Aideen, and I think it's a really good idea to do more of this. And anybody who hasn't, upgraded, I would highly recommend it because there's so many insights. Each talk has a few gems, a few nuggets. And I will be sending out a link to my meditation to come along. I do 3 classes a week, and hopefully one of them will suit within your time zone. So if anybody wants to just come along and even have the experience, have the experience once, and see what tools from all of the speakers and from all of the participants, what tools inspire you and lift you and whatever. And so there's so much in the voice. And I think, Aideen, you've done a wonderful job in capturing part of that and getting us all curious and excited for more, because that's what it's all about. That's what life is about, is wanting to get out of bed in the morning and have some enthusiasm for more and better. And one of the things that I often say about mantra meditation, and you've heard me say this, that when I started practicing, it awakened in me a sense of longing and belonging. And I feel that that's also what you're doing here. You're giving a craving, a desire, a longing for people to understand their voices better and to learn. But there's also a belonging here, because we've all learned a lot about ourselves through the voice. Yeah. So there's a longing for more, and there's a belonging within the community of other people that are hungry for that type of wisdom and knowledge and learning and growth and transformation. So well done to you and to everybody, and keep inspiring. And it's been an honor to be part of this. And thank you. Thanks, everybody.
You're so welcome, Clodagh. Thank you so much. I'd like to just thank everybody who's joined us today. And, if you're watching the replay, we honor you as well. And please do get in touch with us. All of the speakers want to connect with you guys. So we would really love to offer you the VIP offer still. The gifts are available for 6 weeks from the event. So from the 1st of April to the 14th of May, all those gifts are available. So if you're within that time span, please avail of the gifts, and the recordings will be available in the long term. So until this time next year, when we have new videos to put up. So I'm looking forward to inviting you all to another panel discussion in about a month's time. And speakers and attendees will all be invited to that. And I will be emailing something about that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your voices. Thank you for whoever gave us our voices. Right? Thank you to anyone in our lives who's ever acknowledged our voices. And thank you to those that we can reach. We're asking to be able to reach people, right? And maybe the people listening are not the people that you hoped would listen, but there's always someone who would listen, and we can develop that and we can find that. So thank you all for being here. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm going to wrap things up now and hopefully see you all again very soon.
Thank you.